It's actually us that's doing it. So I'm going to start in these areas because I think they'll be quicker to discuss, and then I'll jump into the meat of the problem, which is the profitability. Okay.
Sure.
So are we dealing with the current economy, and have we sort of determined that that's somewhat responsible for what's happening with our company?
What do you mean?
I'm wondering if a certain decline that we've had over the past little while, that we had the crash in 2008, if that's still impacting our business. You did say we've had tons of growth over the past little while, but in more recent years we've seen a decline. Now, did that start as soon as the 2008 collapse happened, or was this later on?
Well, we think it was later on, but you never know if the economy was the main factor of it.
Okay, just want to make sure I keep that in the back of my mind while I keep going. So it's just sort of undetermined at the moment. Okay. In the industry itself, let's move over to there to see if we can sort of get a better feeling about this, and we can understand if it's the economy that's sort of decreasing our revenues and decreasing our profitability. Do we have any major competitors that we can sort of talk about right now and just sort of understand the names of?
We don't have the names, but we do know that although we led the market, we're still very strong in the market. There are also other competitors, other players in the market.
Okay.
We're not the only ones.
Okay, so there are others. Have they seen a similar decline in revenue or profitability?
We don't have information about their financials.
Okay, so while I would like to understand whether or not it's us being impacted solely by this, maybe the market's decreasing or something along those lines, if we don't have any information on that, it's not somewhere that I'm going to spend the rest of the time.
We don't have information about the financials.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll understand a little bit more about the company itself.
Sure.
Since you're talking about, the competitors, you just said you don't have financials. Do we have any other understanding?
Boss right there.
Yeah.
So two things. One, he's always using the paper, showing it to the interviewer, and the interviewer keeps looking at it to know where exactly he is. Secondly, Omer just gave him a hint that it's not just the it's just that he doesn't have financial and he has the rest. So initially Mark was going to skip the whole competitors part of it because he thought it was not there. But if you pay attention, the interviewer usually gives you hints.
Yeah.
So that's why.
So we don't have information about their
Financials. So I'd like to understand a little bit more about the competition.
Sure.
There's just others. I want to know a little bit more about the products they're offering. Are they in the same space as us?
Well, we said the same space. What exactly do you mean?
Are they selling the same product lines that we are, like the same types of products there as us?
They're selling pretty much the same products we're selling. However, they did come up with new offerings that we don't have. Kind of cheaper quality. We're not really thinking it's up to our standards, but cheaper quality of branding. Also, a more comprehensive offering of kitchen accessories.
Okay, so they're making a new, cheaper offering. Do we understand how the market's actually reacting to that? Are they getting increased sales from that area? I'm just trying to understand whether or not this is impacting us.
Well, we don't have any information about this financials, so
okay.
I can't tell you if they're doing
better
or worse. But they are, shall we say, they look at our great products, and they're making not cheap knockoffs, but medium.
Like a private label kind of brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah.
So it's something I'll consider. We don't seem to have any more information about the numbers behind those.
No,
okay. All right. So I just want to keep that in the back of my head when we go and sort of look into our company as a whole. Now, I might come back here in a little bit when I start discovering a little more information about our company.
Sure.
Okay. So I want to jump into the profitability because this is the area I think that's going to be.
So if you notice, he found out that there was one major cause where others were copying his product. He wrote that down and he underlined it. So usually if you find stuff like that and you want to, he thinks it's a standout thing on the piece of paper, underline it, make a box around it, put a circle around it, make sure that the interviewer knows that you've taken that as a special notice. So even if you forget it later on, he'll remind you of that.
One more point. He did not jump onto the customers after he got that point out that if they're interested in buying cheap products or not, he's moving with the structure. So
and for people who are following the case from the PDF, don't get surprised. It's just that Omer is making up stuff right now just to make it more complex.
They want to always say we don't have that information and we'll do something else. So one thing that I was planning to do is, based on what we've heard, is that I can go back to my structure and add a new box in order to make sure that I go across it. Okay. So I want to go back into the profitability right now because I want to understand this, and I feel like this is where the meat of the problem is going to lie. When we talk about, I'm going to go into revenues first, even though I think that's going to be the biggest area right here because we're talking about new product lines.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can you mention the different products that we had again? I just want to make sure I get them all down.
Well, I think we already talked about that, but let's talk about that again. They're offering cookware, pots and pans, kitchen utensils, that's fork, knife, spoons, also. Bonded ovenware, that's things you put in the oven, and kitchen tools. spatula, and your friends. And kitchen accessories,
Okay.
mittens and the rest.
Okay, fair enough. So I have the five different product lines: cookware, utensils, ovenware, tools, and accessories. Do we have a breakdown of the revenue generated from each of these?
No.
Okay, so we have a general revenue then, potentially.
Yeah, we have general revenue.
Okay, so what's our overall revenue for all these
We don't have
lines?
the financials for that.
We don't have the financials for that. Okay,
So
so,
one second, Mark. So one thing you'd notice is Umair tried to lead him a bit into the thing wherein he gave further subdivisions and watched with a smile inside as he noted each of them down. And at the end he just said, I don't have any details regarding that, and he just wanted his reaction to that. So at that point if you go, wrong reaction. So you take in the mind of your head as if, oh, I've come across things like this before, casually move on to the next one.
So what I did was answering this question. This question was asking for information that he got in the beginning of the case, so that's okay, I can reiterate that. And I just gave him the information and see where he's going with that. But as soon as he started saying, okay, asking what are the numbers associated with these segments, I said, yeah, we don't have them. So at that point, he can continue to ask more, but he realized that there were no numbers there.
so we don't have the overall revenues. I want to just, since I don't quite know about the quantities that are produced in these, do we have any numbers around what we're selling, who we're selling to, or anything along those lines, or we have no financials whatsoever when it comes to that?
Can you be more specific about what you're asking? Because
We have the product
questions
lines.
here.
We have the product lines, and we're talking about these 5 areas we're selling in. We don't have the particular revenues for each of them. We don't have the revenues as a whole.
Yeah, we
Now,
don't.
revenues are based around price and quantity. So I'm
Yes.
trying to understand what quantity we're selling right now and whether or not that's increased or decreased over the past while.
Well, we know that the price has been the same.
Okay. So price
We haven't lowered our prices.
the same. Okay. So do we have any understanding about quantity? Because I understand that we have a decrease in revenue. That means our quantity has most likely decreased. I just want to understand how much.
Well, 1%.
By 1%. Okay, so our quantity has decreased by 1%. Basically, there could be a product, but the reason I'm asking that, I understand there would be a direct correlation between a 1% decrease and a 1% decrease in our revenue, but depending on the product lines that we're selling, it might have been a little bit of a decrease. Maybe we're selling more of one product or less of another product or something along those lines. So since we understand that we have a 1% decrease in revenues, I can sort of see that we're selling a little bit less of our products, but maybe there's the reason for that. And this might come back to the new offerings that are being that are in the market. So that's something I will want to get to. But before I understand why we're selling less or why people are heading towards new offerings, I want to make sure that the only problem is in the revenues. It could also be in the costs. So that's where I'd like to head right now.
Sure.
So 2 things. One is, if you get a data, don't just parrot the data back. Make sure it's an insight that you say back. Sometimes they give you a table with 3 numbers for 3 divisions and say 10%, 20%, 30%. Okay, that doesn't add up, but hey, who cares? 10, 20, and 70. And if you just say back, oh, C is doing the best with 70%, hey, they're good enough to know which is the biggest number. But you need to relate it, in this case, Mark related to a previous discovery of that there was competition and cheap knockoff. So either you relate it to another thing so that, and you come up with an insight, but you never parrot the same thing back. And you tell exactly during the whole case, you recap it. You've done this. Before I move here, I want to look at this. Why do I want to look at this? You need to keep the interviewer within that logic flow.
Yeah, I know it's not.
Yeah.
Another thing that Mark did is he realized that there was a decrease in the quantity. There were 2 components of revenue, that's price and quantity, and the price is the same. Actually, probably that. You didn't ask about that probably. And so quantity went down. So he doesn't say, okay, so quantity is down. I know the reason why revenue is down. Quantity is down, so let's all go home, crack the case. No. He said, okay, so there's a problem in the revenue, but I haven't looked at the cost. Maybe there's a problem there also. Let's work it out. Let's analyze that.
So I'd like to jump into the costs here. Now, there's 2 areas I'd like to go into, which are fixed and variable costs. I'm going to make the assumption that we may not have much information on variable costs because we didn't have much on the revenues. So I'd like to start with fixed, and then we'll get to variable costs.
I'm not sure if assumption is correct, but yeah, let's
Sure.
go with
Okay.
fixed cost.
So then we'll hit that very shortly.
Yes.
We start with fixed costs, and tell me what kind of fixed costs our company is dealing with.
What do you think?
So 1 sec, okay. So that's the first mistake that Mark has done right now. So you don't say what's the fixed cost or what's your fixed cost like or what's the variable cost like. You always support it with an example. So that, like, okay, so there are costs which are fixed for us like rent and other such variables. So do we have any other such fixed costs? So do we have any details regarding the fixed costs incurred in the production of this particular event?
Okay, so I'm looking for types of fixed costs that we might have to deal with. I mean, something along the lines of rent or overhead or anything along those lines. Do we have any breakdown of what those costs are?
We don't have a breakdown of these costs, no. We
Okay.
don't have any breakdown.
In general, do we know if they've been increasing or decreasing or staying relatively
We know that on average, our fixed costs like overhead and rent and heating, they stay the same.
Okay, so it's been relatively constant for the past while. Okay, so this doesn't seem like it's going to be a problem when it comes to our decrease in revenue or profitability. Let's go to our variable cost. Do we have any understanding of the breakdown of the variable cost to produce the different product lines?
What kind of variable cost can you think
There
of?
could be raw materials, there could be direct labor that's involved in there, anything along those lines. You know, specific processes that are related to those specific products that we're going to be creating. I'm just looking for a general idea to understand what the costs are and how they're associated with different product lines.
So,
Okay.
one second. So effectively, Mark did not hit the thing that Omer was looking for because the case mentions one particular variable cost. That's why he asked him, okay, do you know what a variable cost is? At which point he did give examples. At this point, if you had a good conversation with the interviewer, he would give you the other cost. Or in this case, it is whatever. So if you've not maintained it as a conversation and it doesn't feel like it, wouldn't matter.
Okay, so do you want to ask me more about variable costs?
I'm trying to think about what other types of variable costs that could be involved in this. I mean, raw materials would be one. I can think about labor, which would be a direct variable cost. I can also think about the shipping for the particular products, which would be our entire distribution of that product. I can talk about sales force, the people that are trying to sell the products, anything along those lines, which would be grouped into labor.
Well, we looked at all the costs, and we did notice that there has been an increase in the transportation costs.
Okay, this is an increase in transportation for which area? I mean, there's the two I can think of right now. You mentioned that we import from China and Italy. Is this there? Once they're here, we distributing them to our sales.
Yes.
Which one would it be?
The one from what do you mean? Which one?
Which one would it be? Though importing from a different country, or now providing it from the distribution?
Well, the imports, the cost of transportation with imports has been
Okay.
increasing for the last couple of years.
Okay.
Okay, just one second. So always try to question the data that has been given to you and see if there is a subdivision of that data. In this case, if Omer was a nice interviewer, which he's not at this point of time, he would have given right at the start that the cost of importing goods have increased. But there are some interviewers who are more strict who would just give you, okay, our costs have increased. And it's up to you to see costs associated with the product. Can my product be subdivided? Yeah, in this case, the ones which are imported and exported. Ask how, why, when, where to that, and see if you can subdivide that cost.
Just a question here. So do you dig even deeper and find out like the cost for specific product line has increased, or like just or general, or
The
you
question, when you ask that, you look at the reaction of the interviewer.
just okay?
He would tell you explicitly, no, I don't want you to go there. You can just take it as overall cost. Or you go, good question, what do you mean by subdivision?
Okay.
Okay. So we mentioned at the beginning of the case that we take 70% of our goods from China and Italy and
Yes.
30% from the U.S.
Yes.
Is there a difference in cost for importing from China versus Italy? I want to understand.
No, you can assume that
They're the same.
both have the same cost.
Okay, can we have a comparison about what the cost of is manufacturing in the U.S. versus manufacturing elsewhere and importing?
We don't have any financial data. We don't have any numbers of data.
Okay, but you're telling me that the imports have increased.
Yeah,
the price of the
we
imports.
know that the transportation costs have increased, but we don't have any data of exactly how much.
Okay, so we just know it's increased.
Yes.
Do we have an understanding of the level difference between? Maybe you don't have the exact figures, but we know that creating it is more expensive versus importing it.
What do you mean?
Do we have an understanding that we may not know exactly what the numbers are, but we know there's a general idea that importing goods is much cheaper than manufacturing it here in the U.S. I'm wondering if we have that sort of understanding.
We do not have that sort of understanding.
Okay, but we have had an increased.
We did.
Okay, we have had an increased price for imports. Okay, so I just want to recap where I'm at right now, just sort of give you a general understanding, so understand where I'm going to go next with this. We started off looking at our products, and we realized, our competition, we realized the products they're offering are the same, but they're doing a few new offerings that are a little bit cheaper. Okay?
Not just the same, they're offering a broader offering of products. It's more comprehensive.
An increased line. Okay.
Yes.
So we have new offerings, not only new offerings, but also cheaper, and they're the same ones that we're offering. Okay. So they have some increased product lines that we're doing here. And this might actually be the reason for a decrease in revenues, which I'll get into shortly.
Sure.
When we're talking about our variable costs, we're saying that transportation is increased. We don't have an understanding about whether or not that is actually that actually costs more than what we're producing here. Now, the reason I'm trying to go down that path is I want to understand, is it worth us in order to move move our products that we're importing locally to be able to produce it. So I would ask a lot of questions about trying to understand if we have the capability to do so, but I want to understand if it's worth it. If we understand importing is more expensive, we might want to consider moving it locally. So this is something we're trying to understand. Do we have any information about whether or not we have the capability here and whether or not it's worth it?
One second. So at this point, most of us would see that it makes sense to make it locally and reduce input. So you don't just outright go and say, oh, that's simple, case solved. You just import less, make more locally. You need to understand the fact that the client has been doing in this business for a long time, and there might have been a chance that they tried that before and they failed. So it's important for you to phrase your recommendation in a way that you're using the client's inputs. So that's why Mark says, I want to see if there is an opportunity for this. For this, we would like to explore. If the client has already done that, he would tell you, like, no, we've already tried that and these are the problems we face. No, we don't want to do that. So it's important for you to phrase your recommendation in a way that does not sound arrogant.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I'll try. I'm trying to understand whether or not it's going to be worth us to take our imported goods and bring them locally in. And we've had increased costs from import. And the reason I'm asking that is because even though we've had increased costs, it's still cheaper to do it, to import it. I don't want to move everything local, but I want to understand whether or not, first of all, we even have the capability before I even consider this option.
Well, I understand in line of reason. Unfortunately, I can't tell you any research that we have been doing, but this is a very interesting idea, and maybe we will do some further research on
Okay.
that.
Okay, so there's the possibility of maybe moving here, assuming that maybe transportation costs keep increasing in the near future. It might be something we want to consider. Okay, so I walked through a little bit about our profitability. There's another segment that I noted down here a little bit earlier when we were talking about this that I want to delve into a little bit deeper. I want to look into our customers.
Okay.
Now, we've seen some of our customers heading down the path of these new offerings and cheaper product lines. Do we have a sense why they're heading down for either cheaper products, or is the market shifting towards different products that we're not offering? Do we have any understanding of why they're moving away from our products?
Well, actually, I would like your input on that. Why do you think my customers are moving away?
Okay, well, you mentioned the two different areas that our competitors are going into, and we don't have much information about whether or not they've been changing. So I'm going to make the assumption that they've been sort of being a little stable.
So, two different areas the competitors moving into?
The new offerings and cheaper products.
Yes.
So I'm defining it based on those two areas. So I'm trying to understand whether or not our new offerings that are coming in are something that are attracting, I guess, are taking our customers away from us. I want to understand whether or not they care more about quality or they care more about price. So I'm just trying to understand how the customers have been feeling recently. Do we have any information surrounding what their feeling is towards our products versus competitors?
Well, we know that we have a very strong brand and we have a premium product. We have the best product in the market. And you know, for quality, you have to pay.
Okay. So keeping that in mind, since our competitors are now going towards a cheaper product offering, we'll deal with that area to start. Do we have any understanding of whether or not our customers would be willing to pay more for a quality product now that we have a clear differentiation between our product and our competitors being a lesser player?
Well, we don't have any market research on that, but our client thinks it's obvious that they will willing to pay more for a quality.
Okay, so this is something that we might be able to consider, which is increasing our prices in order to reflect the quality that we have.
Increasing prices.
Increasing our prices. This is what we're trying to understand. Will we have more customers moving away from our products and going towards the cheaper brand if we raise our prices, or do they care more about the quality than the price?
Would your assumption change if I told you that right now we have the highest prices in the market?
Not necessarily. We have premium products there. It's something that we could consider if we have the highest prices. Maybe there's a reason for it. If it turns out that that's what we need to survive and our customers still care about quality, they will go with us no matter what. It may seem like a harsh business tactic, but in the end, we're running a business here and we want to make sure that we're making the most bang for our buck. And if we're seeing revenues decrease, we need to make sure that we're going against that in order to ensure that our company survives. So unless we have some research to understand that our customers aren't going to move with us as we increase our prices, it's definitely a consideration that we want to do.
Sure.
Okay. Now, about the new offerings.
Yes.
I want to understand, what are these new offerings that we're not delving into right now?
Well, the more we haven't, our clients haven't exactly looked at the competitors which are making shoddy products.
Sure.
They're not really looking at them, but it's been understood that they're offering more complete kitchen solutions.
Okay. Okay, so so it's no longer piecemeal. They actually can say, we're going to design a kitchen for you and put all the pieces into it and hand it over?
Yeah, there are also some pieces that we're not manufacturing, but overall it's a kitchen in one.
Okay.
Kitchen in a box.
Okay, so a kitchen in a box. This is something that we have the capability to do right now. I mean, we have all the products. Is there a particular designer or something along those lines that's allowing them to build these solutions, or do we have the capability to do this?
Well, when you say capability, what do you mean?
Is there anything else we're going to have to add? Like, we're going to have to redesign our infrastructure.
Well, they're offering some kind of some products that we don't. So
that's what I'm saying.
We're not.
Okay.
But I don't think the big problem, modifying the machines or getting new designs.
Okay, so this is something we might want to consider because we're having a decrease in revenues.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're having a decrease in revenues, something's going wrong. We've already seen that we have a decreased sales, so either they don't want the price or they don't have the offering. So there's two areas that we should consider going into potentially. So I'm just going to note that down. It's the new offerings. Now, I want to make sure that there's a clear differentiation between the offerings and the price that we're charging for that. Do we have an understanding whether or not our customers customers that are going for these cheaper new offerings are also, our customers are willing to go for the more expensive new offerings? Is there any information we have about that?
We don't need market research, but maybe you can give me some ideas.
Okay. All right, so that's something that I'd like to go into.
Why do you think they're doing that?
I think they're doing that because, I mean, these days people have less and less time in order to, I guess, do their own shopping. If they come up with a complete kitchen package, it saves them the time from going here to buy one product, going here to buy another product, going here to buy another product. It just saves them the time. Maybe they'll be willing to pay a premium for that, and that's something that we should consider. If they're already paying a premium for a product, we can sell it even more if we package everything together.
Okay.
And this would also increase the quantity that we're selling.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm starting to get a complete picture about sort of the areas that I want to delve into when it comes to sort of the increased offerings, the increase in prices.
Sure.
The increased prices versus decreased prices for competitors, the new offerings and the bundles that we can offer. We also have a little bit of understanding about our costs, our import costs increasing, and we might have the possibility of bringing everything locally as a result of increased transportation costs.
Okay.
Okay? So there's not really many other areas that I'm looking to go into here. We've talked about our profitability, we've talked about the customer, we understand that our product has an incredible brand. I'd like to take just a few seconds to sort of wrap up my thoughts here, if that's okay, and just sort of communicate this to you.
Sure. Assume that you didn't finish talking about the customers.
Okay. Well, if you'd like me to talk a little bit more about the customers, I can be happy to do that.
Sure. Right. So it's two things. One is when you feel as if you've come to a point where you don't know where to go next, where you feel you've been exhausted, recap what you've done and then ask the interviewer if he thinks it's fine that I move on. So the interviewer at that point says, if he's okay with it, he would be like, okay, let's take a moment to recap and give me a recommendation, things like that. Otherwise, he would actually point you in the direction of where he wants to. In this case, he said, I want to look at customers more.
I have one more point. Normally, interviews don't look at your sheet like Umair tried right now. So we have to share our sheet with the interviewer.
Okay, so if we're talking about our customers a little bit more, there's one thing I can do here that I wanted to understand, but it didn't seem like we had a ton of information, so I'd just like to make sure that I have a full solution here. And I'm wondering if we have a way of segmenting our customers. Do we have an understanding of where they fall?
Well, actually we do. We have households and restaurants, like I told you at the beginning of the case.
Okay. Okay, so these are areas that we have to look at. My apologies for not going.
One second. So that's typically a slap in the face right now, because he just mentioned that he's already told that. But it's best if you don't react in that way, because everyone forgets.
Okay, so we have our households and we have our restaurants. So what exactly is our market share when it comes to both of these? Or is our non-market share? What is our division of what we're selling to households versus restaurants?
Well, it's a pretty clear cut. We have like 5% households and 95% restaurants.
Okay, and has this been something that's been maintained over the past little while?
Yeah, it's pretty stable. Man.
Okay.
We're dealing with restaurants, as you can see.
Yeah, okay. So I'm assuming that these complete kitchen packages, just based on sort of what I'm seeing here, are more sold to the households versus restaurants.
What do you assume that?
Because the new product offering is being picked up by our competitors in those areas, which means that if we have 95% of the restaurants and we're not offering those products, we'd be missing something in the area that we're not selling to. That's just my assumption.
So what you're saying is that the competitors are offering complete product offerings and they're doing that to the households?
That's my guess, and that's why I'm walking you can validate.
So if we would have taken a hit in the households segment of 5%, you think that would have affected our entire profitability by 1%?
I'm not saying necessarily that we drop to 5% and it's going to affect us 1%. This is our profitability. So I need to understand exactly what the makeup is, and we don't have the numbers around exactly how much we're selling to households or the price we're selling to that versus the price and how much we're selling to restaurants. So I need to understand exactly where we're going to be missing this 1% from. So I'm trying to understand exactly how we're dealing with our how we're dealing with our customers versus how the competition is dealing with our customers.
Okay.
So again, I'll go back to my question here. I'm trying to understand a little bit about how our competitors are dealing with households versus us. Is this where they're offering their complete solutions to?
One second. No. So he asked a question. The interviewer didn't like where he was going with it because he had no idea why he was asking that. He clarified the question and then restated the question in a different language. You shouldn't restate the question the same way.
So trying to understand if the competitors are, how they are handling.
What I'm wondering is whether or not households are the ones that are going for the complete kitchen solutions versus restaurants, the new product offering that we're talking about.
Well, we don't have any information on that.
Okay. Do we understand whether or not households versus restaurants are going for the cheaper solutions?
Well, we don't have any hard information, but let me know what you think.
Well, I mean,
How do you analyze this?
if we're having a new product offering, if we're having a new product offering that we're not taking advantage of, I assume that it's going to be in a market that we have a less market share or less percentage in, which is why my assumption was to jump to the households. But maybe I should take a step back and sort of understand this a little bit more, and then maybe I can go ahead and
assume that the households have a very negligible effect on our financials because they're only 5% of
Oh, of course. But is there a possibility for them to be a larger market share that's available that we could actually pull in more? That's what I'm trying to understand.
No.
Is this something we should do? Okay, so households are a very small market and something that we shouldn't be considering. Okay, so we want to understand how we should move more into restaurants then, and sort of, okay. So if we're talking about restaurants, do we understand whether or not they're a group that's focused on the complete kitchen solution?
What do you mean? Yeah, I mean, some of them will probably go for the complete kitchen solution, but I'm sure that there are other factors here. Anyone you can think of?
Price is the other one that we look forward to understand whether or not that's something we're looking for. We're trying to figure out if we're catering to them the way that we need to. So we're talking about our product being a premium product. We don't have the new offerings. We're currently at 95% of our sales are coming from restaurants versus households. We don't have any information on the size of the market, so I'm trying to understand how we can increase our market share in these areas that we want to focus on. You told me that households isn't a significant market, so I'm trying to figure out how we can increase the amount we're getting from restaurants. So what I want to understand is what they're looking for. Are they looking for price? Are they looking for complete kitchen solutions? Are they looking for quality? Do we have any information on understanding of what they're looking for?
Well, we don't have any information, but you can assume that the decline in the economy, the recession, has hit some of the restaurants hard.
Okay. Are we losing customers then?
Well, they're buying less. The quantity is dropping, so.
Okay, so the amount they're buying is dropping. So that is, you're talking. Okay, so the quantity is dropping.
The quantity is dropping, yes.
Not the price they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, the quantity is dropping.
So their quantity with us, not in general.
They're buying. We know that they're buying less. Any other fields you want to go into?
Nothing else that I can sort of think about right now. You're talking about they're buying less. So I'm trying to understand if they're buying less from us or buying less in the market.
Well, if restaurants are being closed down, what do you do with the equipment?
You're normally selling it, most likely, or you're
Selling
going
it.
out of business.
Yeah, what do you do with the equipment? What do you sell it to?
You're selling it to either other restaurants that are looking to pick it up, or you're selling it back to other companies or anything along those lines. So, okay, so if you're telling me that they're selling off their equipment, are restaurants, particularly new restaurants, buying from these old restaurants in order to sell off their equipment? They're not buying from us anymore.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so this would be a price that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's the area I wanted to go into, is where we're talking about price. We're talking about that restaurants are no longer looking for new product offering; they're wondering about the price of the product. Okay. So are competition's prices in line with these areas? The cheaper prices they're offering is in line with what these restaurants are selling off.
You can assume that.
Okay, so we're dealing with a market right now because the economy's sort of decreasing right now. I guess we're having a little bit of trouble selling our premium products to these restaurants. That's understandable because people aren't going to be willing to pay a premium when the market's sort of in decline. So, based on that, if we're going to be talking about restaurants in that regard, we're going to be looking at only the premium restaurants. We're going to be looking at a smaller market that we can move into. So, we're going to see decreases here, which means that we can increase our quantity because we're not willing to offer a lower price, and because we're such a premium brand, we have to increase our prices for the higher end. That's the area I'm sort of looking for, unless you have a different area that you'd like me to sort of look into.
No, I think that's good.
Okay, so I'd like to recap the case if that's the case.
Sure.
Okay, so just give me 2 seconds and I want to go through this.
Sure. I think the CEO would also ask about solutions. So if you can go deep into your solutions, and
I can do
There's
that.
some actionable items. You would love that.
Sure thing. Just give me 2 seconds here to set up.
Sure.
Okay, so based on sort of what I've seen here, we started off with a drop in revenue of 1% and a drop in profitability.
Okay.
We ended up pinpointing these to a few different areas. Firstly, we've seen that our quantity is decreasing. Okay, so we have less quantity that we're selling right now, and this has been a problem for us, which is why our revenue has been decreasing. But we've also seen a problem when it comes to our transportation and fixed costs. We're seeing that our costs are increasing as a result of
Fixed
transportation. Sorry, variable costs.
Okay.
Our transportation costs are increasing because the 70% that we're importing is been rising over the past little while. So an actionable item in order to repair that would be to make sure that we potentially look at the idea of moving everything from importing to manufacturing locally. This is only if we see the prices continuously increasing over the next few years. Because we don't have any information about what our prices are at, we want to make sure we dive deep into that and understand whether or not it's worth it for us to move everything locally. When it comes to
Any other ideas?
one thing we do is look for other areas where we can import it that are cheaper. From my current knowledge, I understand that the areas that we're importing it from, China has very cheap labor and very cheap raw materials. So if we can find a place that's cheaper, that would be fantastic. But just sort of understanding it the way that I've done from my previous knowledge, I know that that is a very cheap area. So if it turns out that transportation costs are increasing, we're going to have to find it from a different area.
Okay, I think.
Yeah, so just a quick question here. So he says that the client is the company is in the US and they're importing from China, and say the transportation costs are rising. So can you suggest an alternative like South America, because it's much more closer to US shores, and bring down the import transportation cost?
Yeah.
Can you suggest that during?
Yeah, you can suggest
That would be
that.
great.
So, yeah.
Another thing, when you've got a rising cost like that, one thing you always want to look at is locking in contracts or purchasing in bulk, pre-purchasing in bulk. So can you lock in a contract forward for your shipping from China to fix that cost for an extended period of time? If you're talking about a 1% change, that might make a lot more difference than moving production
For sure.
to the US.
Okay, what else? Is that a...
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing that I noticed is there are twin objectives here. One is there is a decline in revenue and another
No,
is
wait.
decline
Talking
in
about actionable items.
actionable items.
Actionable items for this transportation problem.
Okay.
Specific.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly related to that, isn't it? I mean, if it's a revenue maximization, I'm not going to worry about the transportation problem. I'm going to try to increase the demand.
I'm talking about actionable items for the transportation. After that, we'll go
Okay.
to other.
Nothing.
Something else?
It was just going to say that the recommendations can be as exhaustive as possible. Just have to support why you're saying that.
Okay. Mark
Give a
said
proper
that.
reason behind and just say that if we don't have any information available, then we can research more and figure out if it's going to be more expensive